Hello and welcome to the Monroe Method Clancast. I am Jason Monroe. This is episode 133. Good morning. Let's talk about age. So I will be turning 40 in 2 months' time. What date is it actually? I can't see because I'm tracking my walk. Is it like the 22nd? So my birthday will be 2 weeks on... 2 months on Monday? I don't know. Anyway, end of July, 28th of July, I will turn 40 years old. The reason I want to talk about age is because the age of 40 is a very popular number among people who think they can't lose weight. So there's always like a poster child for everything, right? So when it comes to calories, people love 1200 calories. I don't know why. It's the number that just gained the most popularity. If you were to say, like, you know, what's the number of calories to stick to lose weight? I think the vast majority of people would say 1200. Because it's just the one you hear about the most. Certainly the one I hear about the most from other people I've worked with. Especially when you sit down to someone and say, right, I want you to work to 1800 to 2000 calories a day. And they go, oh my goodness, no, I only lose weight at 1200. Age. Age has a very similar popular number when it comes to weight loss and weight gain, and it's the age of 40. For some reason, people believe that when you turn 40, your body seems to know the day that you turn 40, and it just decides to switch everything off. Switches off your ability to lose weight, switches off your ability to burn calories, switches off your body's ability to use body fat as energy when you're in a calorie deficit. And of course, none of these things are true. Your body, your mind, does not know what age you are. Age is a human construct. We invented age because humans love being able to label things and understand them. We invented the months, we invented the seasons, we invented time as a way of measuring the minutes and hours and how time passes by in a day. All human inventions. Your body does not know whether it's 29 or 39. Only you know that because you're the one that celebrates that every year. When it comes to weight loss becoming more difficult as you get older, that's absolutely a thing, just not for the reasons that you think. Most of the people I work with, in fact, let me tell you about this person first of all. So the reason I'm talking about this is somebody joined the group this week and she was very much living in the past, right? 40 whatever. I used to be able to do this when I was in my 20s, like very much living in the past, as if your life at 20 years old when you're young and carefree, relatively, compared to your life now, that's not a comparison. I didn't have kids in my 20s. I didn't run a business in my 20s. I woke up every day, clocked into my job, did my job, came home, had a safe job, got paid every month, ate, drank, went out, went clubbing. That was my life in my 20s. I'm 39 now. I've been running a business for the last 8 years. I've got 2 kids, 2 golden retrievers, more responsibility. Life is completely different. And this is why people find it more difficult to lose weight. It's got nothing to do with the number attached to your age. And it's what is life like now? Life changes. You know, when you're in your late teens and your 20s, what have you got to worry about? You think you've got all the worries in the world, but you're studying, or you're in your first job or your second job, you're still living with your parents, you've not went into that big wide world of bills and responsibilities really yet. You don't know it back then, but you've got it pretty easy. I know that won't be the same for everyone, but for the most part I would say. We just don't understand how difficult life's about to get. Imagine you could go back to your 20-year-old self right now. Fuck me, how differently would you do things? How much of a better position would you be in right now if you could go back to the age of 20, having done all the things, made all the mistakes, learned everything you've learned, Imagine going back to 20 years old and starting over. Jesus. Anyway, the point is, most of the people I work with are long-term yo-yo dieters. I didn't finish telling you about this person. I'll do that first. This person said to me, I used to be able to eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I used to be able to eat and drink whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And my weight did nothing. And as soon as I turned 40, I couldn't do that anymore. But then, in the same paragraph, she went on to talk about something that happened to her, emotional eating, chocolate. So your age is never responsible for something that your weight does or doesn't do. It is your lifestyle, it is your circumstances. Something has changed. The whole eat whatever you want, whenever you want thing. The only way that has an impact on your weight is if whatever you want, whenever you want, is more than you need. So for example, I burn around 2,500 calories a day, right? I eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and my weight has done nothing for the last 8 years. No, more than that. 9 years. Now, that's not because I'm someone who can eat whatever they want, whenever they want, and not gain weight. It's because what I want to eat, when I want to eat it, the quantities I want to eat it in, my wants do not go above 2,500 calories. Now, I don't track calories, I don't count that. I know that's happening because I know I'm not gaining weight. So I know that the way that I'm approaching my diet, and have been for a long time now, is not leading to weight gain. Therefore, I am nailing that energy balance. Now, in my 20s, it was a very different story. I'm the opposite of the other woman, of the woman I was talking about. You know, and throughout her 20s, she could do whatever she wanted and nothing happened to her. Her weight stayed where it was. Whereas me, that was me 15 stone. Eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, takeaways, snacks, drinking alcohol, etc. For me, that led to weight gain. Now, I don't know how many calories I was burning back then. Who knows? I did have a pretty active job, maybe similar to now. But the numbers game for me back then, my whatever, whenever, was more than I needed. That's why my weight went to where it was. So in this instance, yeah, I mean, that's a great example. I'm about to turn 40, right? Is my body going to suddenly start piling on the weight? Just because my birthday has passed and the age is 40 now? Of course not. If I start changing my eating habits and eating more, will I gain weight? Yes. Because that's how it works. It's not linked to your age. And you'll be thinking, yeah, but doesn't it get harder to lose weight as you get older? Yes, it does. But when we're talking about harder, dearie me, we're talking about the tiniest of increments. Every single year that goes by, don't quote me on numbers, I can't look it up just now, I don't know. But every year that passes, your metabolism declines. So as our bodies progress through life, we need fewer and fewer calories. Now, it is minuscule, the drop. Minuscule. Like, if I'm burning 2,500 calories per day right now and I change absolutely nothing, next year I'll be burning 2,480 per day. And then the next year I'll be burning 2,460 per day. That's what we're talking about. If I was to jump from now 20 years in the future, yes, my calorie burn might be 200 calories less per day. But it's not like, okay, well now I'm 40, all of a sudden everything's drastically declined. It doesn't work like that. I can't remember what age it starts. It might be late 20-ish. But there's a point, and again, this is not related to age, this is related to your body reaching a physiological point Like if you, let's say you were an orphan, you had no idea what age you were, your body doesn't get confused. There's a biological process that says, right, this is it, you have reached your peak, and from here on, your metabolism is going to steadily decline. That's perfectly normal. And the thing is, there is so much we can do to counteract it. If you were someone who regularly lifted weights throughout the entire time that you're metabolically declining, the muscle that you gain and the calorie burn that's added by that would compensate for that natural decline as we age. But anyway, there is no reaching a certain number and all of a sudden things get harder. But in the case of this person, I mean, here's an example, right? Let's say that all the way through your 20s, you're eating, you're drinking, you're doing whatever you want, and your weight's doing nothing. Awesome. Your wants are matched with your body's needs, and you don't even realize it. You just think, wow, I'm so lucky. I'm one of these people that can do whatever they want and not gain weight. You're not lucky. You're just playing the numbers game really well. It's like saying that, oh, that person spends loads of money and they never get into debt. They're not lucky. It's because they're playing the numbers game. The amount of money they spend does not exceed the amount of money that they make. So to the outside it looks great, but they're just, they've not put any attention or focus on it. And that's what it's like when people don't put any attention and focus on it until it becomes a problem. Until they get to a point where their weight's going up. Or it's got to a point where they're uncomfortable with it and they can't understand it. How come I used to be able to do this and I can't do it now? And then when you explore a bit more, this is a fictitious situation, but it'll give you some examples. When you explore a bit more, and it's like, okay, well, when did you notice you started to gain weight? Well, after I had my first kid. Right. Well, that would explain a lot. And no, that's got nothing to do with pregnancy or your body or being able to gain weight when you're pregnant. All of a sudden, your life has changed. Before you had kids, you had 100% time that was 100% for you. For you to dedicate to socialising, study, work, dating, partners, whatever. When you have kids, you lose a fucking massive portion of that. I wouldn't even say you lose 50% of it. It must be more than that. You lose 60 to 80% of your time, especially when they're a baby. So if you lose, let's call it 75, just for the sake of a round number. You've just had a baby, and now you have 75% less time for you. That is a huge life change. You've not got enough time to go on dates with your hubby. You've not got enough time to socialise. You've got less time to cram in work and free time and downtime and rest and relaxation and all this stuff. You're now trying to do everything you were doing before, but you're doing it with the huge responsibility of a small human on your shoulders. And so, this is when unhelpful habits start to rear their head. Someone might always have comfort eating, someone might always have emotional eating, someone might always have stress eating when they're tired, and this is a common theme over the last few episodes where it wasn't big enough to cause an issue. It hadn't scaled up enough to become an issue. Remember, these habits, they're not problems. It's the scale of them that become the problem. And this is when things start to get different. And like I said, you explore these things and you find out, when I had kids, it just got so hard to lose weight. My body just didn't adapt after pregnancy. It's like, no, it's not that. You started eating more. You started spending more time at home. You started spending more time near a kitchen. You were running on low sleep. You were getting very little time for yourself. And when the baby did go down for a nap, you were going to the cupboard and grabbing a few snacks and grabbing your phone and curling up on the couch with a cup of tea and having some me time. But we don't recognise that. It's just something that, you don't go from not doing that to suddenly excessively snacking. It's such a slow, gradual build-up where, I didn't notice it, but I got into this habit where every time she went down for a nap, I went to the cupboard and got a couple of biscuits and a cup of tea. And when she was napping 4 or 5 times a day. So that's 10 chocolate digestives a day, 800 and odd calories. Like, you don't need to get into the calorie side of it. It's more the habitual side of it that's the problem. And this is the part that we don't recognise. This is why people gain weight. This is why they find it challenging to lose weight. Not because now they're older, but because their life has changed dramatically. More responsibilities. Husbands, wives, kids, dogs, promotions, more work stress, more study. If we go back to uni or whatever, like, life tends not to get easier as you get older for many people. I'm sure there are some people who it does. I don't know any. Maybe you do. Maybe somebody won the lottery. Their life would get a bit easier. So yeah, nothing happens at the age of 40. It's just a number. Nothing is changing. I think you need to be able to take a step back, right? From this default thinking that your body, the entire world, wants you to be overweight. I think this is everybody's default thinking, right? Because the assumption is that it is so incredibly easy to gain weight, therefore, that must be a biological thing, right? Your body wants you to be overweight. It does not. It absolutely does not. Your body does not like being overweight. It doesn't like the strain that goes with it. It doesn't like the health risks that go with it. Your body is working very hard to help you maintain a healthy weight. The problem lies with us. So I'm confident now that I will never be overweight ever again. I have too many years behind me to show me that evidence that I have mastered all my eating habits, all that stuff, emotional eating, stress eating, all of that. So right now, I feel pretty confident that I will probably never be overweight. However, I can't account for everything. So what happens when my mum dies? Sorry, this is going to take a morbid turn. My auntie died recently, last week. I had the funeral. Or this week, sorry, I had the funeral. My mum's sister. So, like, my mum is going to die at some point in probably the next 20, 25 years. So what happens when that happens? Like, what will that do to me? Will I react emotionally? Will I seek comfort in food? I won't be turning to alcohol, so that's a bonus. Having been sober for almost 1,000 days, it's coming up soon. What will it do to me? So that might be me and I'm going to be 40, 50, I might be 60 by then. Very lucky, if I still have parents around in my 60s. But that's just another example of how something can affect a person. You know, somebody might never have emotionally eaten for their entire life. And then they go through something like that. Losing a sibling, losing a parent, losing a favourite nana, losing a close cousin, like something like that. And all of a sudden, that person has started using food to cope with that thing, and now that becomes their go-to. And then they reach the age of 40 and now it's super difficult to lose weight, and it's not. It's difficult to lose weight because you've developed a habit that makes it difficult to lose weight. So I've not addressed the menopause thing. We don't need to get into that here. Does menopause make it challenging when it comes to your weight? Yes. But again, it's nothing that you do not have the power to overcome with good eating habits. The problem with menopause is menopause does not lead to weight gain in the same way that it does not lead to weight loss. What it does do is manifest a lot of symptoms in you, and how you react to those symptoms is what determines what your weight does. Low mood, irritability, poor sleep. Here's an example. With exercise, a lot of people will exercise more and eat more because they've got a greater appetite. And then there are people at the opposite end of the scale like me who exercise and their appetite's suppressed. Like if I was to go for a run right now, I wouldn't want to eat anything for ages. For me, exercise is a bit of an appetite suppressant. It's the same when I climb mountains. See, if I go for a huge day on the mountains and I'm climbing 4, 5 or 6 across 8 or 9 hours or whatever, I have to force myself to eat because I understand that my body needs calories to fuel the walking, but I don't like doing it, which is why I try to eat small, high-calorie things because it just feels alien to me. Whereas there are people who do a lot of steps or go for a run or go to the gym and they feel ravenous. And it's just a personal thing, you know. It's the same with menopause. You know, believe it or not, there are people who eat in response to stress because that's their coping mechanism. And there are also people who don't eat. I mean, I spoke to someone last week who told me that the time they lost the most weight was when they were getting divorced from their husband. She called it the divorce diet. And again, she was someone who was put off of eating because of what she was going through. And at the opposite end of the scale, there would be people who would massively overeat because of what they're going through. So it's not age. Yes, your metabolism declines very slowly with age, but we need to stop seeing it as a barrier. You know, if your metabolism, if your calorie burn decreases by 20, just 20 calories per day across a year, each year, I'm making that up by the way, it might not even be anywhere near that, it might be much less. Every 10 years, your calorie burn declining by 200, that's quite excessive. It's probably closer to like 10 or single digits. The point is, if you ate one less packet of crisps per day at 160 calories, that's going to completely overshadow the few calories that you're losing from kind of metabolic decline. So the single biggest impact on your weight will and always will be you. Yes, there are external things and internal things that will make it slightly more challenging, but we need to stop allowing them to convince us that they're a sticking point, that they're an obstacle, that there's something that you can't get by. Oh, I've tried to lose weight, but I'm 40. It just doesn't work like that. Your eating habits, your calorie intake, your activity level, these things will always dwarf any minor change that's going on with your body or age related or anything like that. So the whole point of telling you this is to empower you. That's what it's all about. That's what everything I do inside the Monroe Method is all about. You're teaching people, you're trying to empower them by saying, look, here's this thing that you used to think, and it's not right. See that thing that you've allowed to be an obstacle for all these years because you thought that you're too old to lose weight because your gran once said that once you turn 40 you can't lose weight anymore? That was nonsense. What happened is you chose to believe it and you brought it into your progress and you've allowed it to hold you back when the reality is it wasn't holding you back at all. You just brought it into reality. So yeah, I hope you feel empowered. Right, I'm going to go because I'm back in the estate and it's very quiet. Until next time.